Hello guys, I am in Czech Republic in beautiful Prague and I'm on my way to meet the designers of Arnak at the CG offices and I think it's gonna be very exciting. So I am here with Elwen and Mín. They came all the way from Brno to visit Prague and have this short talk about the new Arnak expansion. How are you guys? Are you feeling okay?
Yeah, they're great.
Thank you for coming here. I really wanted to meet both of you because I love Arnak a lot. And I also wanted to ask you, because I'm not sure, but I've heard that probably Elwen and Mín are not your real names. Is that true?
Yes, that's true.
Okay.
It's a possibility.
It's a possibility. Because it's like as if elves named you. So what are your actual real names? Or if you don't want to say, you can keep it a secret.
Oh, we can. I mean, it's not a secret. It's just that we call each other Elwen and Mín. That's why we are using these names. Those were our nicknames since forever. I don't even know when it started. But yeah, I'm Michal.
And I'm Misha, but it's Michaela or Michelle.
That's also like an elf name, so I really like it as well. So how did the idea for the new Arnak expansion come along and actually when?
Well, that's difficult to say because, of course, when you're designing something, then you have ideas that you don't really integrate into the design, or you kind of put them on the shelf and then maybe later I will think about them more. Mm-hmm. But then also after you design the game and it's already somewhere like in the stores, then sometimes you think like it could be there are new things coming to you. So it's a mixture of both of these. Some of the things we already had like kind of on the back burner from before, and some we just kind of new ideas that came to us later on.
And at which point, like you said, okay, let's make an expansion?
Yeah, I don't remember when you said that. But I think it was maybe part of seeing how people were excited about just the base game, and also us still having some ideas that we wanted to explore. Right. And we kind of hope that it will be successful enough to support an expansion because, as Mín said, we already were thinking about these characters.
Yeah.
And then it seemed like that would be a good way to go. So we started.
Like the final decision that there will be an expansion was sometimes in the spring.
I think so.
Okay.
Right after we finished like the solo campaigns, and we kind of started working on this.
We actually used the solo campaign kind of like our testing grounds because already in solo campaign we were testing with new concepts and tried to tweak some rules. And actually, not many, but some of the concepts that we used for solo campaign actually made it even into some of the characters' abilities and stuff like that.
So I guess it's always like you have ideas for one thing and you can use them for some other thing as well.
Yes.
Like, that's the case.
But in this case, I know that we already kind of like tried to think if this would be something interesting even for the base game, but then it would be just, we need to streamline all the experience. And I think it's just the right place to place it into expansion, and we could also really bring much more than we would be able to bring if it were just part of the base game. So.
And so how did the idea for each leader come? As in, did you have some mechanic in mind and then you thought of an archetype, let's say, or a person you might know even, I don't know, or you thought of a character that you really want in the game and then you thought of the mechanics? How did it work?
It was a mixture of the two. Sometimes we had like an idea that, oh, it would be cool if this mechanic was explored and if you could play a different strategy revolving around a certain part of the game, for example, the items or the artifacts, and buying them sooner than you would normally. And sometimes it was more like, oh, it would be really cool to have a tough guy or girl who deals more with the wilderness and the guardians and can explore easier. So yeah, some of the characters, for example, the falconer was more the thematic inspiration. Some of them were more the mechanic inspiration. That's, for example, the baroness.
And do you have a favorite leader, let's say? Like personally?
For me, it's Mystic because he's the
very
most
cool.
complicated in a way,
Yeah.
like, but it's cool how it still works, even though it seems like it shouldn't. So yeah.
Yeah.
For me, it's like it's the same like with the question, which is my favorite board game. I just love exploring, so
Yeah,
I
yeah,
would
yeah, I
probably
see.
always try to play the one that I haven't played for a long time. So I'm always trying new one, and I always find fascinating that they just bring different experience, and that's what we like about it. That's basically our measurement of what we want to achieve with the game, that we want to have fun with it. So
Did you have specific inspirations for those leaders? Like, how did you, apart from the mechanics and the theme, was there like a hero, some other hero or a person you know, or someone that was in your mind as an inspiration for the leaders?
I don't think so.
I don't think we had like a real person in mind. It was more like the archetypes that we wanted to represent, and maybe also part of the inspiration, which is kind of funny, was the base box already has like 3 characters on it, and we kind of came up with the idea, okay, if it's 6 characters, we want to use those 3 and then add 3 on the other box. So it's kind of.
Oh yeah, that's a little Easter egg. I don't know if people will even notice, but yeah, if you combine these 2 boxes, those are the 6 characters that you get in the game.
Right. And now they have like a profession and abilities and stuff.
So you could see like, okay, there's a professor, and you could already seen him on the base box, and it's kind of like we already knew what he was like, and now we kind of like design just kind of some gameplay for him. Yeah. I mean, we didn't think about that when we were choosing the characters for the box, but then it just fit well also with the ideas we had for some of the mechanics. Yeah, we just really want to combine the mechanics and the theme together, so we try to see what archetype would support it the best.
Okay, all right. How long was the development and testing process since you had the original idea, let's say?
Well, it was pretty quick. We kind of started sometime in May, I think, and it took us till half of the June, I think, or July. I don't know. It was took like two months to really hammer out the basics of the gameplay of them, and then we kind of moved into the testing phase, which was very much accelerated by the digital kind of implementation, and a lot of very helpful testers from Board Game Arena, which was awesome. And I think that basically sped up the process by almost half a year or maybe more that we usually need for the testing, because organizing live events is usually more time consuming and you don't really get that many people there. So this was awesome.
This was also unique because this is so asymmetrical. It was very different from testing the base game. Here we really wanted to see that these characters, while they are very different, that they are still balanced. And so being able to test online, that was really great. So we had our internal testing that we kind of built prototype online that we were able to test together, and that was really helpful.
Oh, wow. So in the new expansion, apart from the leaders, there is some other elements. So there's not only the asymmetric gameplay, but there is also new content. Could you elaborate a little bit on what people should expect to play apart from the leaders in the expansion?
Sure, because the expansion is kind of modular, you can just choose what you want to play with, and we design new content that you can just easily mix with what you already have in the box. So you have new items, new artifacts, new guardians, location to explore, so new assistants. So all these kind of makes it again fresh for you for the kind of exploration part, and they don't bring too many new rules. You can just mix it in and already start playing even with new players. And on top of that, you also get 2 new temples to explore. Those are a little bit more challenging, so if you want to spice it up, they have some new effects on it, like the monkey temple and the lizard temple. So that's something that you can enjoy.
And also adds to the replayability of the game, for sure.
We play the game a lot, so we try to kind of make it fresh for ourselves. So.
Yeah. And I was gonna ask you if you guys actually, I know that game designers that have been working on games, they stop playing their games. Is this the case for you, or is it because it's a fresh project, it's collaborative? Do you play your games?
We do, because
We do,
I mean
yeah.
our friends want to play with us, and like one of the advantages, we really designed it for ourselves.
Yeah, we really like the mechanics in
yeah.
that, so
Yeah.
it's our favorite game. Not my favorite, but yeah.
I still remember that even during this testing, kind of sometimes just stop and it's like, I still like this game. It's like it's like after like we played the 100+ games and like this is still fun for us. So
Yeah. I wanted to also ask you if there was any particular challenge while making this expansion.
The challenge is always the time,
Yeah.
because yeah, it was quite a short time frame, and with our kids, kind of finding time to really design was tough. But also, I think the biggest challenge is always with asymmetrical games is the balance. So I'm quite happy with what balance we achieved in the end, but it took some time to get there.
I think that I've read in some blog that you guys followed a lot the artists, like the graphic designers and artists' process in creating the world in the game. And I think there's a lot of details in the cards and in the artifacts and the guardians that convey stuff about the world. Did you follow the same process? Like, were you very focused on the artist to create and imagine the leaders as well?
Yes, we tried to work with them very closely, and we actually like that because it inspires us, and then kind of we have some kind of an idea that we present to them, and then they come with drafts and we can kind of work together in a way that it creates a better results, I think, because they bring stuff in that we maybe then introduce in the mechanics, and we bring stuff in the mechanics that they can introduce in the character, how they look like. And I think it then ties the team and the mechanics very well together. So that's what I like about it.
Okay.
I think you can see it, like especially in cards, because sometimes when we are creating new artifacts and items, sometimes we have just cool effect, and we are trying to find, so what kind of item can do this thing, or what kind of artifact, how would it look like? And sometimes like we just say, okay, well, let's just see what kind of like drafts you have, and let's see what this crazy ring can do, or what this stuff can do, and then we could try to create mechanics around it.
Could you maybe recall any stories that happened, like funny stories, weird stories during the development? I don't know, what was the biggest adventure for you creating Arnak, also the base game and the expansion?
I mean, for the base game, I think the biggest adventure was really the process of world building, because it did not start as a Arnak, the Lost Island. We were starting with our prototype, just combining different legends together, like from the real world, and soon we realized it will be actually much cooler to create our own kind of like alternative world when we discovered this island, and we could just explore and build our own world. And then working on it with our artists, we had amazing team, and those guys are just, I mean, one thing that really made us excited was to see them excited and being part of the team, and that. So I think it's part of the success is just to see how much they invested into it, and the game just looks beautiful. And it's always, I think, the dream of the designer to see, like, from our cardboard prototype, suddenly this is just such a beautiful game. That's like the biggest gift.
Yeah, I think you can see that in the design, because it's very much focused on the mechanics, but there's a lot of theme in there, and you can feel it from different directions, like even the cards and stuff, like the world is there. And I think it also translates in the gameplay in a way that I personally feel that there's a lot of exploration in the game, because you have many different options to choose from. Like, if my plan A doesn't pan out, I'm gonna do something else, and then I discover something else, and it takes me on a different path. And this is something that I really, really like about the game. Are there maybe more to this world that you are going to slowly release in other expansions?
We don't know that yet. I mean, it's difficult to convey all the, because when we work on the world building and we work on the lore and like even the civilization that once lived there, and their belief system and all these things. Like it's not easy to put that into Eurogame. So.
Exactly, yeah.
So there's a lot of like material that helped us to build the world, but I don't know how easily we would be able to just put it in anything else. But we would need basically some kind of like stories to tell.
It's sort of how the solo campaign came about, because I was always very keen on having a game where you can tell a story, and I don't know if I should say this, but Michael was not really keen on that so much. So we kind of promised some kind of solo campaign without promising very concrete stuff, and then we worked on it later on, and I basically wrote stories for it, and like we made scenarios around that, and that's kind of how I sneaked it in, with less Eurogamey and more kind of story driven. But if there's a space to make more the games that are really like core Arnak and then stories around it, we will need to see about that. I think having the solo campaign kind of opened our eyes to that there's a limited design space, and you can't really go that far from the core to, like, there's just limited options. You can't really have unlimited scenarios then. So yes, I would love to have more stories from Arnak or about it, but yeah, there's only so much you can do.
But I think this is one of the fun stories, because like quite often when we design together, we discuss a lot, because we just really try to find some kind of some solution that would work, and we would both believe this is the best way. But it could happen sometimes that we don't find this common place, and then we just try two alternatives. And with solo game that happened. So Mín had her idea how to do the solo, and I had mine, and so we ended up actually designing two variants. And they actually ended up like one of them being just the pure solo game that you find in the box, and one being the solo campaign. And so that was actually great.
That works really well.
Because we are two different like kinds of players. Because I do not enjoy, when I play solo, I do not enjoy playing against like a number. Achieving bigger score than I did last time. It just doesn't seem exciting to me. So I wanted a story and exploration there. That's how it happened.
So that's why there is a balance in both.
I guess.
So you guys actually design games together. Like, this is something you have been doing for a long time?
We have been trying for a long time. This is the first game we actually managed to put together, so yes.
This is your first finished game that was published? Oh wow, that's exciting.
Oh, you didn't know?
I thought you were designing games, but that was the one that made it to, you know, like being published. I thought you were designing.
No, we didn't finish any game before that, really.
I mean, we had some prototypes that kind of work in our drawers, but they didn't reach that level of kind of like excitement, even in the team they were showing it to. So this is the first one that really made it to the cup to be published. So yeah.
Wow, I think this is also a great hobby as a couple, right? To design something together, to create, must be amazing.
As long as you can communicate well, it works.
When it works, that's great. No, I think it's a great advantage even for both of us, because I think we like to design, and it really helps us to discuss it and process it, and just being able to talk together about something we both are excited about. It just makes the process much faster, I think.
It's also like it facilitates, like you can find mistakes sooner before exploring it. Like if you design a prototype by yourself, you may just completely miss something. But when somebody looks at it before you actually put the energy into making the prototype, then that's very helpful.
And especially if you're different types of players, that works.
Yes, because you then tend to see it from different perspectives. That really helps.
So what kind of games do you like, each of you? Like, do you have, I guess you don't have favorite games, right?
I don't have one favorite game. I have many favorite games. But I tend to like anything where you have a very strong like story to tell after you play the game. So either thematic experience or like a story, an exploration in it. For example, like Seventh Continent or even Gloomhaven, I think. Or I like games where like you have a fun memory, like it was real fun and remember how you did that turn, and then I revealed I'm the spy and all.
So even lighter games, you don't
Yeah,
mind?
even party games and stuff. Okay. I don't really like big groups of people that much, but I like light party games where you can play, I know, with family and stuff.
Okay. And
What about you?
I don't know. I play everything. I mean, I think in core I'm Eurogamer. I really like if there's some cool combo potential or strategy that I can exploit in the game and try to break the game. That's just my favorite thing.
That's what we have.
Okay, all right.
I mean, that's how we started. We started as testers before we joined CGE. So it was our fun activity. Try to break their prototypes.
Oh wow!
So now they
didn't know
do it
that.
to us. So that's fun.
Wow. And now other people are trying to break.
Yeah.
Wow, okay. I guess that was all for this video. I promised to come back and visit Brno, the second best city in Czech Republic. Or the first. I don't know, this is something to see in the future. And maybe you'll have something new by then, and we can talk about it as well. Maybe see your actual notes and designs and what you have in the drawer and stuff like that.
That's all top secret.
All right. Thank you guys very much for this.
Thank you.
Thank you.